But quitting rates are now falling back to pre-pandemic levels. And economists say the job market is cooled and the power is back in the hands of employers. Let's unpack this with our panelists. Diane Canada, author and founder of the Lady Up America app, and news director at WGN, Ryan Burrow. Great to have you both. Ryan, I'll start with you. So there was a time when people had all these choices. Things were looking up. Are workers feeling the heat now?
I actually kind of take a different perspective on this because I think that why do people stay with the job? Well, they stay for the job satisfaction. There's consistency, there's stability, there's fulfillment. They also stay because they're scared to leave. So it's possible that maybe people aren't resigning because they are afraid to leave. But I believe actually as a hiring manager myself that the employers kind of met what the demands of the employees were. There was a push and pull at the beginning of the pandemic, and the employees said, you know what, this isn't working for me, whether it be where I want to work from or how I want to work. And I think that in many cases, the employer met them halfway, and there's some stability now.
That's really interesting. So, Diane, do you think employees were a little overconfident about the pandemic market?
Yeah, Kelly, what I think happened during the pandemic was because we became a remotely working world. I think a lot of people tried their hand at entrepreneurship. This is just kind of my estimation. I think a lot of people tried to kind of open those online-based businesses, things like that they'd always wanted to try. And I think when the market opened back up, I think a lot of them, first of all, figured out they didn't really like it and they wanted to go back and be among people. But I think a lot of them maybe tried their hand and realized it wasn't for them. So I think some of those dynamics played in quite a lot. And then, yeah, I would agree with what Ryan said. I think there's been a little bit of a give and take, on both ends.
Well, I certainly see all those sides. And Ryan, have you seen a shift in office dynamics because of all of this?
I think that everyone kind of everyone started pulling in the same lane once we got kind of on the outer side of this pandemic. I think people realized, hey, coming into the office is not the worst thing in the world. I do enjoy coming in. I do enjoy separating my life from home with my life from the office. And granted, just look at the traffic on Mondays and Fridays these days. There isn't that much. So I think employers said, you know what, if you want to extend your weekend, if you want to work from home a little bit, that's fine. And I really think employees appreciate that.
Yeah, certainly. And I have noticed the traffic patterns. Thank you for noting that. So speaking of office dynamics, a new study shows workplace romances could ruin company culture. The surprising research isn't about the couples themselves, which of course has its own complications in the relationship, but it's with fellow coworkers. So this survey found romantically involved coworkers were ostracized and even at times sabotaged by other employees who viewed their relationship in a negative light. So, Diane, we know office romances can be complicated for the couples themselves, but to be sabotaged by other employees, does that surprise you?
It doesn't, because I think the people that are in the relationships are not wise about how they walk that out in the marketplace. If they are a little more discreet and they're not oversharing, I think sometimes in the workplace we can, because we are together so long, we can blur those lines between our personal and our professional life. So I think it starts with how we walk it out at work. And so if we're not oversharing, we're kind of keeping that a little closer to the vest and just focusing on the work, I think they could save themselves from a lot of those, a lot of that backlash.
And those are interesting points. So Ryan, how about the argument that office romances could make employees happier at work?
From an employer standpoint, we all want Pam and Jim. We don't want Michael and Jan if you flash the office, right? You don't want the chaos surrounding it, and you certainly don't want the rumor mills swirling around either. I mean, you want some stability. We really here haven't had that. I know plenty of people who, got together because of their employer, and it's worked out fine. There have been issues too where it hasn't. It's a very difficult rope to walk. I'm not aware of any contracts that we saw in the television show The Office appearing anywhere in any major corporation, but that could be an interesting concept, I suppose, if you wanted to avoid these situations.
Well, certainly, I would have to agree. Diane Canada, Ryan Burrow, thank you both for joining us. A great conversation.
Thank you, Kelly.
And still ahead.